Welcome to the Wildlife Wire. I'm Mark Searles,
And I'm Samantha Miller.
and this is your source for wildlife news and the people that make it. On this week's episode, houndsmen complain about too many lions being killed. Hellbenders in North Carolina learn the hippie hoedown. Killer whales go to the spa, and Senator Lee backs down.
I know. And now I just grabbed a blueberry and ran away with a blueberry.
Is he eating the blueberry?
No, he just grabs it and runs away with it like he's like a feral animal.
Like he's holding it hostage?
He does hold my blueberries hostage. It's really sad.
Oh,
Cats, cats,
cats.
cats, cats. You want to talk about my cats? You want to talk
Okay.
about our weekend cats? You want to talk about anything else? How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. I collected no signatures at the Denver Pride Fest. It was very
Well,
exciting.
that is 1,437 signatures less than what I collected last year at Pride. So I'm glad you had fun at it. I went on a lot of walks and hikes this weekend, like a couple a day. It was perfect weather. Life is good.
Good. Good. You know what? Who life isn't good for?
Oh, this is how we're starting our
Yeah,
news today. Who isn't life good for, Mark?
Wyoming lions. And I want you to tell
You want
me
me to tell you?
why.
I am happy to tell you why. But, for this news story, it is Wyoming centric. So I do want to warn our listeners that we are again taking a journey to the killing fields of Wyoming,
Bum,
where
bum, bum.
all carnivores go to die. And what Wyoming is doing is they are overkilling their mountain lion population. They are overkilling them so much that houndsmen are asking for a reduction in the hunting quotas of mountain lions. They have intentionally, the
Can
Wyoming
you say
Department.
that again, just really clearly?
Oh, sorry. I said the
The
houndsmen,
houndsman.
the people that hunt mountain
Hmm.
lions with dogs, they're saying, whoa, 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 we're killing too many mountain lions. Please don't allow us to kill more. In fact, we'd like to kill less.
Okay. That's what I thought I heard. I just wanted to make sure.
It's very true. That is what's happening in Wyoming right now. And it's a fascinating story in that the hound hunters are reporting they're seeing more and more young cats and less trophy cats, the
Hmm.
big ones that you'd like to put on your wall or by your fireplace because it makes you feel special. They're seeing less of those, more small cats. They're letting the small cats go. But they're doing a good thing now and actually advocating for lower mountain lion quotas, which is important. And it's definitely a nuance that we haven't seen here in Colorado. I'd love to see Colorado houndsmen say, hey, whoa, our age is trending downward, which is something that we're seeing in Colorado as well, as far as mountain lion harvest goes. So let me take a step back. Are you ready for me to take a step backwards into time for a second?
Ooh, let's go.
So, with mountain lions, the way you can tell a population is unhealthy, or one of the ways you can tell a population is unhealthy, is you look at harvest statistics or you look at information about lions that have been killed by mountain lion hunters. And one of the predictors for an unhealthy population is that the harvest age starts to trend downward. So you're seeing smaller and younger cats being killed. And you also tend to start seeing female harvest go upward a little bit. You're killing more female mountain lions.
And we're
We
just
see
using the word harvest just because that is the lingo of the states.
correct. So this is how the states would report these on their annual harvest reports. And I put air quotes around harvest, and I am trying to be intentional about saying killing afterwards, but that's what the state means whenever it says harvest or lethal control or removal, or oftentimes management means killing too. So I'm going to hop back into the Wyoming story. So what they're seeing there is younger cats. It's much harder to find adult cats. And the state itself intentionally was trying to create population sinks, reduce mountain lion populations in specific management areas. And they only retained 4 game management areas as sources. So saying, oh, we should have a sustainable population of mountain lions to breed there. So it looks like they are reducing cats across the state and most areas of the state. Even the areas that are supposed to be source populations, it's not looking good. Wyoming has absolutely no data on the population numbers of mountain lions, and they're killing over 350 cats every year. And I assume they have less habitat for mountain lions than we have in Colorado. But in Colorado, each year we kill more than 500 mountain lions every year. So, really, this whole news article in the WYO file calls to attention that they're holding 50% higher mountain lion hunting limits that were put into place due to big game outfitter pressure. So, the whole reason Wyoming is killing more mountain lions is under the myth that if we kill more mountain lions, we will have more, guess mark.
Deer and elk.
Yes. So, and pronghorn. And so the Game Commission made these changes without any evidence at all to appease these big game hunters of ungulates, of deer, elk, pronghorn. And now there's a big concern about the population overall. So this is my bad news of the day. There's a lot of mapping in this particular news article, which is cool. You can look at where everything is and where the cats are moving and areas of interest. And I'm excited for folks to look at the link. But 2 important takeaways there is that when we overkill mountain lions, when we have too much harvest, we do see an increase in conflict. Younger cats are more likely to get involved in conflict. I say it's like if you put a bunch of teenagers in a bar, they're much more likely to get into trouble than a responsible adult, maybe, in most cases. So really, it opens the door to more conflict. The younger cats tend to be more desperate for food. They're in constant territory disputes. And we see a lot of issues with that younger population, especially younger male cats as they disperse out. And then with this artificial decrease in age, too, the survival rate of mountain lions overall is going to go down. So lots of issues there. A lot of additive mortality around killing mountain lions. We've seen this a lot with someone kills 1 female mountain lion, then 2 cubs are left to starve. And so now you've actually killed 3 mountain lions and not just 1. Or you kill a male mountain lion who might be holding bigger territory. And then another male comes in, gets into a fight with a female mountain lion, or wants to breed with her and kills her cubs. So mountain lion hunting kills more than just the mountain lion itself. There's this additive mortality that comes with it. So that's my first story. That's my mountain lion soapbox. I'm happy to answer any questions after I hop off this soapbox. What you got for me, Mark?
Yeah, no, you answered a lot on your soapbox there.
Thank you. I was preaching. I'm here to preach mountain lion.
Yeah, I would imagine that the number of outfitters is pretty small that's making these demands, like probably even less than the number of houndsmen and women that don't do their hounding commercially.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic there because I think the houndsmen themselves, some of them interviewed, were outfitters, just hound hunting outfitters. So both of these groups of people are impacted economically by how the state is managing wildlife. But economics should never be the driver in wildlife management. So lots of concerns across the board there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's always the driver.
It is, especially when state agencies are ran as enterprise agencies, so their job's to make money. Then they go for how can we make the most money, and that's usually with our hooved animals that people like to eat and put on their walls.
Yeah. When when you brought up a bunch of teenagers in a bar, I saw a headline uh, this weekend from Denver that Denver Zoo was worried about teens taking over the zoo. I guess they had done it there or somewhere else before, and they were getting in all kind of fights and stuff. Like, why
Ooh.
would you pay money to go fight someone? Why don't you fight them outside? Very strange.
Teens taking over the zoo. Who'd have thought?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's that. Do you want to hop over to Utah to gloat a little bit?
I do. I want to gloat in Utah. I'm ready.
Okay, you know that Mike Lee, Senator Mike Lee.
I've heard of him. He's the terrible man who wanted to sell all our public lands, right?
Yeah, yeah, he is. And guess what? He's not. He's not doing it. Mike
He's
Lee preemptively drops, quote, big beautiful bill provision to sell
oh
federal lands that riled GOP colleagues.
oh interesting.
So before we get into it, I just want to, Mike, if you're listening, thank you for unifying wildlife advocates and hunters together and their hatred of this idea.
Yeah.
And
It was a common ground issue. It's exciting.
it was really great to see. And so he's quoted in here saying, over the past several weeks, I've spent a lot of time listening to members of the community, local leaders, and stakeholders across the country. While there's been tremendous amount of misinformation, and in some cases, outright lies about my
Yeah.
bill, many people brought forward sincere concerns. And so the senators from Montana were like, this is an absolutely non-starter. They were absolutely both furious, both of them Republicans. So
Hmm.
lots of Democrats, lots of Republicans going against this idea. It was going to be like 11 million acres, and there was concerns: is this land going to be bought by you know big firms like BlackRock? And Mike Lee was saying, "Oh well, we will be able to sell this land and then create public housing there," like, which was absolutely not his idea, like what the end goal was. Um and there was concern about these companies buying the land. There was concerns about foreign interest buying the lands, and it was just going to end in disaster and for absolutely zero gains. Like when you look at how much money we would actually get from this land being sold and as a one-time thing. uh,
Yeah.
and so um, Lee says, I continue to believe the federal government owns far too much land. Land it is mismanaged and in many cases ruining for the next generation, whatever that means. Uh,
Mm.
so so it's like, okay, well, if it's being mismanaged, we could put more resources to manage it better. Or if that's the big deal, and instead of selling the land, maybe we could just give it back to tribes. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and so either way, we're so happy that this has fallen by the wayside and is not part of that biggest, beautifulest billist anymore. And we can then focus on all the other terrible things that are in there. There was another quote that I would like to read from Montana Representative Ryan Zinke,
I'm ready.
who those who can look back to Trump's first term would be like, oh yeah, that he was the Department of Interior during Trump's first administration. And he said, I agree with my colleagues that the federal government has mismanaged federal lands for decades, but I don't agree with their solution. The solution
No.
is not to sell public lands. The solution is better management, like I just said. Let's send legislation to POTUS to improve management and access.
Mm,
Yes. All right, Zinky. So I think it's been a kind of a good litmus test, right? To just see where the public stands and like how pissed off we'll be when things like this uh, are presented in Congress, and hopefully this outcry will prevent any other uh, legislation to come through again in the future, or at
yeah.
least in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's always good to talk about issues that unite us. And I also extend my gratitude to Senator Lee for bringing us all together. And yeah, I think a lot of what this administration has done with our public lands has been pretty deplorable, from downsizing staffing and to proposals to increase extraction to this massive sell-off that almost saw its day. It's been pretty awful to watch what's happened to spaces we all really care about.
Yeah, yeah. So good news on that front. Do you want me to go on to some aquatic news, or you got something for me?
Well, I have another thing that can unite us
Ooh,
if you'd like to cover that first, and then we can, it's
yeah.
also aquatic too. So we can
Hey,
make
perfect.
two very natural transitions right now by continuing the unification and then sticking with the aquatic theme.
I love
What do
it.
you think of that?
That's great.
So you want to know what's uniting us?
Um, yes.
Well, it's uniting us and specifically a town in North Carolina. And it is one of our favorite species, a very funky looking salamander that goes by many a name, including snot otter,
Snot otter.
lasagna, lasagna lizard, and devil dog.
Wow, these are
And
all new to me.
well, the Smithsonian taught me all of this, so I'm learning as I go. But the species I'm talking about today is none other than the hellbender.
I love a hellbender.
Me too. They're really cool looking. They're massive salamanders. And this story is about the small town of Boone, North Carolina,
Oh, I know,
which will,
Boone. That's where Appalachian State is.
oh, well, well, I'm so glad because there are only 20,000 residents in Boone and they have embraced the Eastern Hellbender.
Yes.
And so they unofficially elected the native Hellbender as its community symbol. And they have actually inspired hospitality concepts like different brews at breweries. And then the council commissioned this huge mural of Hellbenders downtown. And that was a collaboration with my organization, with Center for Biological Diversity and the town council and others. And the mural just reminds all the viewers of the importance of protecting our rivers and streams. And so hellbenders are an indicator species because they survive by absorbing oxygen through their skin. They can really sit. Their presence says a lot about the health of rivers and streams. And after Hurricane Helene went through and folks were looking at really fixing that area post hurricane, there was a huge threat to hellbender habitat because the hellbenders had already been through a stressful experience with the hurricane. And then they were going through and looking at bulldozing habitats for the salamander. And that would dump a ton of sediment and road runoff and debris into the river system. So one of my colleagues actually stood in front of bulldozers and helped coordinate all of this really collaborative advocacy work between a community and nonprofits. And we've also petitioned to have the hellbender listed as an endangered species. That would be great. And so, yeah, they call hellbenders a canary in the coal mine because where they're thriving, we can be assured the river is clean and safe for people. They've been building ecotourism around snorkeling and all sorts of clean water activities. And yeah, that's my story. You should check out the Hellbender mural. Boone is great, and people are very supportive of the species.
You know, I am sure that hellbenders are quite lovely. I feel like they, just because of their name, that they wouldn't appreciate being likened to a canary.
Probably not. But Boone really sees them as a symbol for their town, their region, and community, and says they represent our identity, resilience, and commitment to environmental action. So, if
Well, that's
canaries
great.
are there with them, maybe they could form a coalition.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. Fun fact, I learned how to downhill ski in Boone, North Carolina.
Oh, you did? How'd that go for you?
Really well.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
They also had
well,
the hippie hoedown on the radio.
I want to know what the hippie hoedown is.
Back in the day before there were these smartphone things, you had to listen to FM radio. And I just turned it on one day in Boone, North Carolina, and they're like, "Welcome to the hippie hoedown." I was like, "Yeah, come on, Boone,
Ooh,
come
I
on, Boone.
like it. Well, are we going to stick in the water for
Yeah,
our next story, or you want to
let's."
keep dabbling with the hippie hoedown?
No, I'm all done with hippie hoedown. That's a different thing.
Okay, yep, that's a different thing.
Yeah, yeah. Let's stay in the water. This is fun. We're gonna go back to our friends, the Southern residents, the Southern resident wells, killer wells in the Puget Sound,
Uh-huh.
and this is really cool. So, killer whales caught on video grooming each other with seaweed after a master's
Oh,
student
oh.
notices something kind of weird. And
Okay. I like it. There's something kind of weird happening. Got it.
yeah, so they had been flying a drone. This student, Rachel John,
Mm-hmm.
she had been flying a drone, and they have seen these orcas go into the kelp forest before and kind of play around in these kelp forests, and they thought it was for two reasons. One, because it's fun to swim through a forest,
Yeah.
and two is they scratch on the kelp and it helps kind of exfoliate their skin, like shed some dead skin off. And what they hadn't seen, though, and they had observed at this time 30 examples over 8 days where one whale would use its teeth to break off a piece of bull kelp, which is like strong, flexible garden hose. And
Yeah.
then they would put the kelp between their body and the body of another whale, and they would rub it between them for several minutes, and they
Ooh.
would form this S shape to keep the seaweed between their bodies. And so what's cool about it is, so they call this allo kelping, which means kelping with another whale.
Oh, it's like a spa treatment. You know how you can get those seaweed wraps
Yeah,
at the spa? I
yeah,
hear
yeah.
I hear
Except
that.
for
I personally haven't gotten one, but I've
I
I've
haven't
heard you can
either.
do that.
If you had, my next question would have been, did you ever rub with another person getting seaweed
Yeah,
treatment?
that's my favorite thing to do in my spare time, just to do some kelping of each other. Continue.
Yeah, so it's just really cool, and they were talking about then. Um, this is one of the first known examples of marine mammals manufacturing a tool, and then
Ooh.
the only example they've found so far of a marine animal uh, using their bodies to hold the tool. So, uh, bottlenose dolphins have used marine sponges to trial for prey, and so
Oh.
that could be considered a manufactured tool. Sometimes whales will blow bubbles to distract, yeah, get fish confused, and then
Uh-huh.
they can eat the fish that way. So they consider those bubbles a kind of tool. Really, really cool stuff uh, by these whales. And then it does go on to say that this is something I forgot about this piece. So,
Okay.
because of the extensive amount of time that we've spent on the southern residents, that we know that they eat fish, and like they are
Yes, we do
fish
know that.
eating
Salmon.
whales. Yes,
Yeah.
and recently they there were some whale observers that found a pod going after a bird.
Oh, they'll play with birds. Did you know that? They won't eat them, but they play with them. So they'll
Well,
grab them and then kind of toss them around with each other. Were they eating them?
this just says hunting a bird close to shore, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
I do
Yeah,
get a good giggle out of. They're so smart.
they
And
are.
hey, Mark, did you know that killer whales are dolphins?
Of course I did. From a long, long time ago.
But yeah, they'll use all sorts of tools. It's really cool to see what they can do. And I loved that. Wasn't it Dr. Deborah Giles that was calling them sentient, some kind of beings? It was
An
very,
ancient being,
yes,
or an ancient tribe of beings.
yes. And that is so true of them. And each different set of orcas has their own culture, they'll have their own language. We know the southern residents are salmon specialists, others are marine mammal specialists and will eat seals and even other smaller dolphins and that sort of thing. And then, yeah, whales are just awesome creatures. So
And
I'm
dolphins
glad to
too.
hear they, and dolphins too. And I'm glad to hear they figured out spa treatments. I was worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have some downtime. And I hope all of our listeners have a little bit of downtime
Uh-huh.
between now and our next podcast.
Me too. Everyone needs a little break to do some advocacy and maybe a kelp wrap.
Yeah, so if you find yourself in the spa and you're getting a kelp wrap, knock on your neighbor's door, see if they want to get down for some kelp on kelp action.
Perfect. Sounds great. Great advice, Mark. Until next time, guys. Bye.
This has been an episode of the Wildlife Wire with me, Mark Searles, and my co-host, Samantha Miller. Thank you for listening.